Previously, I finished off this large factory and started building up more of the city as we head towards the waterfront. In today's episode, I'm going to start building a new section of the city. I'm calling this area the Docklands, and it's going to be over here, and I'm going to start by building a large pier. I want to keep the sea level at the height of the table and the land working its way up from there. In digital Lego, it doesn't make such a difference, but it does help in making the layout perspective look correct with the surrounding room, because that's how it would most likely be set up in real life. As a result, I need to raise the entire layout by about 10 bricks or so. If this was a real physical layout, this would have been disheartening, especially since I just recently raised the entire layout previously. I probably would have just put in some workaround. But anyways, we're almost done now. Now that the entire layout is raised, I can add the seafloor. Water comes in different colors, but because I want to model more industrial areas, I don't want crystal blue water. Looking at some reference pictures of the water surrounding the San Francisco piers, we see it's greenish in color. I've seen the best colors resulting from combining a base color with transparent tiles on top, so I tested several different combinations. I settled on using the transparent green tiles on top of light blue base plates. This combination gives the greenish blue I'm looking for. Right now, the brick edges make the water look slightly rough, so I might not need to add in waves yet. I don't want the water to look too rough, and I also want to easily add in ships on top. I think I'll leave it as is and see if I need to add some additional wave layers later on. There's going to be a main road in front of the pier. Beside the road, there's going to be some railway tracks. The tricky part of the scene is where the railway tracks cross over the road. The 3 tracks cross over at different angles and are curved while going over the pavement, so trying to construct a good-looking track crossing was difficult. I tried a few methods out. I'm using brick tracks, switches, and curves because I think they look way better in my layout. The standard Lego switches and curves are just too sharp. Next, I wanted to start working on the wooden dock sections. I want them to emulate the rickety old wooden docks you see used on the San Francisco piers. This main building is bordered by the wooden piers around the 3 water-facing sides, with embedded tracks that will travel along the length of the pier. The pier's width has to be wide enough to allow a 8-wide rail car to easily fit and still have enough room for people to walk beside the rail car. So I decided with the width of 20 studs, which includes a 1-stud raised edge. The track is not laid directly in the middle, but offset towards the water's edge because I wanted to ensure there would be enough space on the pier since the walls of the pier building will have piping, roof overhangs, and other vents sticking out. I also need the extra studs to ensure that any overhang from a freight car caused by a curved rail on the pier won't be a problem. They have a top layer of brown tiles of various sizes and brown color variations to mimic a pier that's undergone ad hoc repairs over the years. 1x1 plates, rounded and quarter tiles break up the rectangular tiles to mimic cracks and dents. There is a 1-stud wide tile lip on the edge for most of the pier, with every section having a cleat using 2 angled hollow studs. The wooden pier has a single row of narrow wooden pillars and 2 additional rows of concrete larger pillars behind them. In theory, the pillars extend under the pier building, but as we see, the pillars fade into darkness pretty quickly and we don't actually need to put any more than just 2 rows of pillars to achieve the desired visual effect. Regarding the pier track access, I wanted the building to have several track access points to facilitate some interesting switching moves. This first pier is based on San Francisco's piers and I took heavy inspiration from them. I really wanted a grand archway like we see in Pier 1. I think when we talk about the San Francisco piers, that's what comes to mind. However, I wanted track access going into the main building through this archway like we see here. In my Lego version, the main entrance also has the famous archway with pier number prominently displayed. I decided to go with a rounded square entrance rather than a true curved archway. The edges of the arch are adorned with decorative tiles like how many of the prototype piers have. The track enters through the archway into the main warehouse. I was debating if the track should enter straight or at an angle. I decided to have it enter at an angle and have the main tracks closer to the road. I think it looks nicer and closer to the reference pictures. The building is mostly made out of white colored bricks, but the roof is black and has this faux terracotta brown edge, mimicking the design of many of the real life piers. The pier is only 1 story high and has a sloped roof with a monitor that spans the width of the building. A note of interest is that the slope of the roof purposely doesn't match the triangular facade to match the real prototype. There are 2 tracks that travel down the piers. On one side, I added track access inspired by Pier 3. Here we see the track travels through the left wing of the building and down the pier. In my version, the wing has people offloading some vegetables and other food items. I really like the industrial look of Pier 26's 2 track access points. The tracks run along a narrow, claustrophobic curved corridor between buildings, which eventually opens up into the pier. So, on the other side of my Lego version, I added track access that runs along a curved hallway between the pier building and this other truck dock. I got the idea of using curved walls from Brick World International. This is basically a wall of 1x2 bricks that are forcefully bent into a gentle curve. I really like how it reproduces the claustrophobic feel as trains run through this track. The main part of the building is the truck docks. The truck ports on the front are deliberately close to the road, so when a truck uses the dock, they are partly obscuring the road. This is common in industrial areas near where I am. The building is built on an extension of the pier and has water access along 2 sides. That looks like a comfy place for a pizza lunch. Maybe it's not lunchtime yet. Gotta get back to work, there are trains to unload. Looks like they're working hard on this side. Hand loading a container on a flat car looks like back-breaking work. I have to say, getting the tracks lining up was incredibly difficult, even if it was digital Lego. I initially laid out the tracks and built the buildings in sections, but something got shifted when I tried to align everything. It just wouldn't fit. The door entrances weren't lining up with the curved rail sections. Luckily, BrickTracks offers smaller rail sizes, which I used to properly space out the switches, so the curved tracks leading into the building were properly centered with the entryway. Doing it again, I would probably attempt a different approach. The road is not yet connected to the rest of the city, as I'm not sure how much space I'll need between this large warehouse and the tracks. There's going to be at least 1 more building between them, I think. Let's see some cool train switching operations possible with my Lego pier. With everything now in place, this is what we have. I think the first pier looks pretty good. It's not technically as long as the real pier. The real piers can have over a dozen shutter doors. My version only has 4. I personally feel when you make a Lego version of a large building, you often have to shrink the scale and compress the details. Otherwise, the Lego version can be too large and sometimes look too repetitive. This is a stylistic choice though. I've seen builders who do massive buildings which look cool, but I do feel that most Lego builds compress details into small areas, so that's what I feel looks more natural in the Lego world. But that's just me. As the city grows, I think longer piers will fit in better, so the next one will be longer. And that's it. That's the beginning of my waterfront area. I'm not sure what I'm going to build next. It'll either be industry to support some cool rail switching operations or something more along the waterfront. I also want to build the inside of this pier too. I think that'll be cool. Thanks for watching.